Hey everybody, welcome back. This is going to be part 2. Fixing Dark Magicians. Part 2, a failed archetype. If you haven't watched part 1, make sure you go and check it out, but I feel like this part's going to be even better. Once again, shoutouts to George H for putting these digital prints together, and also Sabri E-Mini for the music. You guys are the best. Welcome to the world dedicated to Dark Magicians. Whether you're a collector, a fan, or a duelist just looking for tips, you'll find in-depth content exploring Dark Magician's legacy right here today. Are you sure this is a DM card? Well, it has the hat. This is one of the oldest archetypes in the game, having received support for nearly 25 years. However, these cards were rarely designed with a unifying strategy in mind, making it difficult to play a coherent deck. The latest Searcher, Illusion of Chaos, doesn't have access to many of the older useful cards. Cards such as Sorcerer of Dark Magic, Magician of Black Chaos Max, Dark Magician of Chaos, Magician's Valkyrie, Kiwi Magician Girl. These cards do not fit under the Dark Magician umbrella, even though they wear a similar hat, are clearly in the art style of Dark Magician related cards, and ultimately, we know they're Dark Magician cards one way or another. Another issue is that the inconsistency between the OCG and the TCG names, which complicates building effective strategies. For example, the Spellcaster Fusion version of Dark Magician, originally called Super Magical in the OCG, has a different name in the TCG. So for example, Eye of Timaeus kind of synergizes with the Super Magical cards. Skilled Dark Magician, also not counting as a Dark Magician card, is very interesting. Dark Magic Curtain and Dark Magic Veil are both Dark Magic spells, while only one of them is searchable in Dark Magician. Dark Magic Curtain is searchable, but we would never play it. Dark Magic Veil, I think we would actually play at 1 if it was searchable. Maybe. Pretty much a Monster Rebornian archetype, but if it was searchable, that makes it a lot better, right? And of course, Eye of Timaeus still has the big issue of being unsearchable, even today. So, in theory, like Rod and Souls, if Rod could get Eye of Timaeus, we could have 2-card any boss monster we like, but that's just not the case, sadly. Speaking of Eye of Timaeus, die a hero or live long enough to become a villain. Introducing Dark Magician as a name-based archetype was exciting, but in practice it didn't fully work. Many related cards don't share the name, limiting synergy, something that Blue Eyes did successfully from the very beginning. The best part of Eye of Timaeus is that it allows you to fusion summon using Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl without needing polymerization, with just one material. This offers quick access to powerful fusions, greatly boosting the versatility of the Dark Magician deck, which was clearly meant to be fusion based. Here you can see the list of fusions you can make with just Eye of Timaeus, a Dark Magician on the field, or a Dark Magician Girl on the field. The Eye of Timaeus, an unviable and improbable errata. Many players wish the Eye of Timaeus had an errata to work with Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl. However, in today's meta, this wouldn't be effective, specifically for Magician's Rod. The abundance of hand traps in the current decks would easily disrupt this play, and it would also force players to include extra cards to add protection just for this combo. Modern strategies demand flexibility and the ability to continue after interruptions, which this errata would not offer. Plus, it's unlikely they'll issue an errata after so many years of multiple high-rarity reprints. And I think the nail in the coffin here is the Monster Timaeus that they added to the game. This card not only is a searchable Eye of Timaeus, in brackets, it's also a monster version, and it's way worse. This card is about 45 times worse than Eye of Timaeus. The only benefit this has over Eye of Timaeus is being searchable. That's it. If this card wasn't searchable, it would be literal garbage. And quite frankly, I still believe it is. It's bricky, it's searchable, yet needs a discard or a send to the grave to summon. And even after that, it's not even a quick effect to fuse, which imagine if it was a quick effect. You could go to battle phase, because it is a big attack monster, right? If you could go to battle phase with this, hit your opponent with your Dark Magician and your Timaeus and then fuse, that would be great for going second. Could have opened up a lot of game plans. If you read the card Blazing Cartesia, I think Timaeus should have been pretty much copy-paste of this. I don't care if its stats were lower. Let's be real. There's people who defend this card by saying, well, it's got 2800 attack. Who cares, guys? This is not 2002 Yu-Gi-Oh! Stats don't really matter on a card that's made to be fusion material, right? Fusion material card can be literally 0/0. Like, we don't care. We're going to fuse with it to make Dragoon. So the stats on this are irrelevant. If this card worked more like Cartesia, we would be very happy. But That's a rant for another day. Magician Souls, the best card for everyone except Dark Magician. Now this was a big problem, a massive problem. Magician Souls nearly got itself on the ban list because of spiral cards abusing it. Magician Souls is a fantastic card for decks that gain advantage by sending key cards from the hand and field to the graveyard, making it a staple in combo heavy strategies where draw power is crucial. Now these kind of decks were decks that had really good spells and traps with good effects in the graveyard such as Spiral. Basically, if you had a deck where you had beneficial spell and trap effects in the grave, Magician Souls was the card for you. It was an extender that could give you draw power as well as putting those spells and traps into the graveyard for you. However, in Dark Magician, Magician Souls doesn't shine as much. While it helps you to draw, a little bit, Dark Magician decks don't benefit from the consistency of sending the spells and traps to the grave. We've only got a couple of spells and traps with grave effects, and a lot of them aren't very good, or their Soul Servant, which you kind of want to activate instead of sending to grave straight away. Instead, we want to focus on maintaining board control and recycling key resources, and as a result, Magician Souls can sometimes feel like it disrupts the deck's flow rather than enhance it. Of course, Magician Souls helps you put Dark Magician or any of the other bricks in the grave. That part of the card is great. However, it just doesn't quite hit the same in this deck as it does in a deck like Spiral, which is really sad. This triangle is so broken, but not the good broken. This is, of course, referring to the Dark Magician triangle established by me, LOZA. This is the theory that to play Dark Magician well, you need to have established Circle, Eternal Soul, and a Dark Magician, or preferably a Dark Magician the Dragon Knight, to just continuously recycle, achieving one banished every turn, and just slowing down the game for your opponent, more or less. This is the standard game plan most Dark Magician decks aim to go for. But what's the problem? Well, from 2016 to 2018, we could use Eternal Soul and Dark Magical Circle to banish a card each turn, and 2 during attacks thanks to Airborne Illusion Magician. Then thanks to Dark Magician the Dragon Knight protecting us, we didn't have to worry about Eternal Soul's downside. But now that playstyle's no longer viable. You spend way too many resources going for one fusion and one banish, instead of an untouchable Dragoon. This makes Eternal Soul and Circle feel less useful since Dark Magician and Dark Magician Go work better in the graveyard for drawing with Soul Servant. And it just means going for any other fusion just feels bad when you can just make Dragoon. So this is a bit of a Dragoon issue as well. Dragoon being so strong means the other cards in the deck feel so bad. So as you can see from the graphic, the way you would make Dragoon and the way you'd make Dragon Knight is more or less the same. You need Dark Magician and you need a Dragon. Then you need a card to get there, such as Secrets or Timaeus. Timaeus being both in this case. Now option 1 is Dragoon, which is a untargetable, doesn't die from card effects. It's a beat stick, 3000 attack. It can negate something and then go up 1000 attack permanently. It can pop 1 card and burn your opponent for it. If you used Red Eyes or another vanilla, you can pop 2. That's option number 1, right? Seems pretty good. Option number 2 is a card that protects your back row and identifies a Dark Magician on the field. It's pretty black and white. You would pretty much go for Dragoon 99% of the time, unless you had Circle Eternal Soul established, then you might be like, oh, I might go for Dragon Knight. Even then, that requires you having like a perfect hand, right? So it just wasn't viable to go for Dragon Knight anymore, or any other Dark Magician fusion for that matter. Dragoon is just the king. The DM x DMG dilemma. The internal contradictions and external dependencies. The Dark Magician archetype often contradicts itself, requiring cards outside its own theme or having effects that work against one another. Players are forced to use both Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl without clear synergy, which stretches resources. Many strategies demand having both on the field, ultimately weakening the deck's potential. These inefficiencies lead Dark Magician players to rely on non-archetype cards for consistency. To improve the archetype, Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl need better synergy and support that allows them to work together effectively with a clear emphasis on the true potential residing within the extra deck. What this is referring to is cards like the Dark Magicians not being able to be summoned like a contact fusion style, that card not identifying as Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl on the field or grave. Like, these are just some silly things that would really help the archetype a lot. Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl in the hand are bricks. If there was a way to make them less bricky, that would be huge. I've suggested like a link one that lets you use the bricks from the hand. Some people think that's a bit too broken, but that's honestly what we need. There's a lot of different Dark Magician archetypes that require you to play other stuff. If you'd like to play Dragoon, you need to play Red Eyes. If you want to play Cavalry or Paladin, you gotta play Buster Blader. From the start, Dark Magicians wanted you to mix in these other bricky archetypes, and it's just kind of wild. Cards like Magician's Combination, it's a negate for the deck, but it needs you to alternate between Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl in the field grave. It is the most awkward negate you could possibly get. I hope we can get a counter trap in future that is just way more just linear than this. This is just the most convoluted way to negate one of your opponent's cards. If they simply just call by the grave your Dark Magician, like, you just lose the game anyway. Or, you know, Bestials, which are everywhere most days. So yeah, there's just a lot of impracticalities in this deck, and it's very frustrating that we can't use Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl together in a good way. Like, they just don't do anything. They're just vanillas, and when you try to make them work together, the best thing you can come up with is like the Mons package to create a board wipe, but then you need to leave the vanillas on the field. Regardless, no matter how you try to use them, they just are better off becoming a Dragoon. So things to fix. We need to play both Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl to get access to the good stuff, right? We're talking about the double draw from Soul Servant. We're talking about stuff like the supposed negate from Magician's combination. Like, clearly they want us to play Dark Magician Girl, Dark Magician, and even probably the Palladium cards, right? Konami, in theory, want us to play all of these bricks, but, like, we need something to do with them then. Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl become bricks that need to be sent to the grave, or they lose their impact. And the less time they spend on the field, the better. Magician's Rod is the primary searcher, but it's too vulnerable to hand traps. I suggest something like a Link 1 to fix that. Just to have just copy Rod's effect again, I don't care. That would be fine. So after using the effect of Magician's Souls and Magician's Rod, there's no real follow-up plays as well. So if you do get hand trapped, you're just like, well, we need like a link to go into from here, right? There's nothing else to do. So that would help a lot. And decks like Trap Trick have links. Like, why does that trap deck have links to extend their plays after they normal summon? Like, that is wild to me. So I definitely think we should get links. And Blue Eyes has a link 1 now as well. So it's definitely on our radar, right? We don't have a way to play through disruptions, which often ends the turn. That's why players heavily rely on other engines. Guys, we never want to. Dark Magician players will all tell you the same thing. I'm playing XYZ engine to, you know, compete with the meta. And Dark Magician purists get angry at us for doing that. And, like, ultimately, we're doing it because we want to win, right? We're not doing it because we hate Dark Magician. We're doing it because we want to win, and Dark Magician doesn't play through interruptions very well. It can bait interruptions, and then you do other deck stuff, which is great. But unfortunately, we just need a way for our deck to play through interruptions. And that's just going to have to be links, I think. I think that's the best way to do it. Now, our fusion monsters are decent. This is a positive thing, right? Fusion monsters are good, but they don't gain enough advantage from the available support, and they require too many resources to summon. And the only one you ever want to make is Dragoon. We do have a lot of good fusion monsters, but you normally have to use 3 cards to summon them, and by then, they're not worth 3 cards. If there was a more efficient way to summon some of the older fusions, and yes, I'm not talking about Dragoon, I'm talking about the Dark Magician, I'm talking about Master of Chaos, even Dark Paladin. If there was a 1-card way locked in our archetype to summon them for 1 card, for example, I have Tomice but searchable, that could be a viable strategy. Because a lot of these cards feel like they should have been contact fuses, for example, the Dark Magicians. The fact that you need to fuse into that is almost a hate crime to me, and the fact that it doesn't identify as Dark Magician or Dark Magician Go on the field or grave is really, really dumb. So I would suggest a fusion spell that lets you fusion summon using material from hand, deck, grave, or maybe just hand deck, and I would say the fusion summon card adopts the name the Dark Magician, just like the Red Eyes fusion gives the monster summon the Red Eyes Black Dragon name. I would love to see that. This deck lacks a way to negate or control the field compared to the older support. I honestly don't know what this one's referring to, sorry. But I think it's just saying that it can't control the field anymore, and that's just because the meta's so fast now. So we kind of need cards to bring us up to speed, more or less. It's unlikely that Tomice will receive an errata, so it's time to explore new strategies and move forward. I absolutely agree. It has to happen, guys. Tomice is not getting errated. We need new cards, new support. We could get a new fusion spell that is a new Tomice based card. I would be fine with that. But based on the printing of the monster Tomice, I don't think the Eye of Tomice will ever get an errata, and I think people need to let go of that and let go of the card so we can move forward. The deck struggles with consistency, especially when trying to resolve key plays. There's also cards with contradictory effects. I got to agree that there's a lot of contradicting effects in Dark Magician. It feels like a lot of our support was made by like 8 to 14 different people, rather. And it's very frustrating. Like, the guy who made Dragoon is not the guy who made Dark Magic Inheritance, right? Like, they gotta be 2 different gamers, because that shit is completely different. If they could find ways to make some of the older cards useful as well, that would be really cool. I do think cards like Dark Magic Inheritance did have potential back in the day, which I'll talk about in another video. But yeah, nowadays the support we got just doesn't synergize with that at all, because Soul Servant banishes itself. So, not to say Soul Servant's a bad card, it just doesn't tie in well with some of the older support. And that's going to be the end of part 2. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you will be back for part 3, which will be fixing the Dark Magicians part 3 is this the salvation? I've been your boy LOZA. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace. Hey everyone, Editing LOZA here. Just a little message. Thank you so much to those who've watched this series. Could you please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already? Because unfortunately, this series is just not doing great on the channel. If you have a look at the top content this month, you'll see that the new Dark Magician girl, all her videos are in green, and yeah, they're doing well. My streams are in yellow, doing pretty well, and this series is actually below that in red, actually doing the worst out of all my content right now, which is kind of wild to me because there's been a lot of effort put into this, and I was confident this is a good series, so it's a bit of a shame, but sometimes that happens on YouTube, and that's all good. So could you please let me know in the comments, what can I do to improve this series next time if I do another series like this? What can I do to make the editing better or more appealing, or the audio better? Just anything. Just let me know, guys. Tell me what I can do better. And if this wasn't up to the standard and it didn't hit the YouTube algorithm, fair enough, but let me know what I can do to be better. I hope you join us for part 3, and I'll catch you guys then. Peace.